Hey, Bubba Tack here, and this is my video review of the Smith & Wesson Model 5903 9mm semi-automatic pistol. So, jumping right into a little bit of history on these guns, this particular model is part of their third generation line, and it was preceded by the first and the second generation, and then after these came the TSWs. And I already did a video on my Smith & Wesson Model 4006 TSW, and so go ahead and check that out. And these particular pistols were meant to be service pistols for law enforcement. And this particular model that I have here, this particular pistol, was a law enforcement trade-in. This particular model was an aluminum alloy frame and a stainless steel slide. And they were pretty popular back in the 90s. I think these have codes on the first three letters of the serial number are data codes, and I called Smith & Wesson or emailed Smith & Wesson and asked for the when approximately it was manufactured, and I think they told me it was manufactured in I want to say 1996. But it might have been 1995. But anyways, they were a product that began being made in about 1988, 1989, and they switched over to the TSWs in like 1999, 2000. I think my TSW 4006 was manufactured in 2001, is what the data code on it is. Anyways, they were real popular back in the 90s. Jumping into design, they were traditional double action pistols, meaning they were double action, single action, which means that they used a safety decocker to put the weapon on safe and to decock the hammer. And to kind of put them side by side here, with the my 4006 TSW. The TSWs had these rails, and the original third generation models didn't have that. And that makes them real good carry guns because they're real streamlined, and I actually do. This is my carry gun, and I really like it because it's real nice and streamlined. It's fairly light. I'll get to that here in a moment. So TSWs, as talked about in that video, had night sights as standard and a couple other features, and they went to MIM parts for like the trigger and the hammer and things like that, and then the safety levers. But the original third generations used forged steel triggers, forged steel hammers, and forged steel safety levers. So those are all things positives to me about this gun, that it's all forged steel, all American forged steel. So giving you some specs on it, its overall length is 7.5 inches, and its barrel length is 4 inches, and its overall height is 5.5 inches. Its width at its widest point, which is where the safety levers are at, is 1.37 inches, but its grip in this area is barely just over an inch. So it's actually still fairly slim for a double stack pistol. Its magazine capacity is 15 rounds, and there are aftermarket magazines that I'll get to momentarily. So the empty weight, the empty weight with a empty magazine is 800 grams, and that is, for a full-size pistol, fairly light. And this isn't a full-size. It's actually probably smaller than, say, a Glock 17, and maybe the same size or just a little bit bigger than a Glock 19. And it doesn't really weigh much more than the Glock 17 does. So I really like it for these dimensions, you know, under 8 inches, under 6 inches, 4-inch barrel, still fairly slim for a full-size double stack magazine like it has. It's still fairly compact and light, which is why I generally use it as a carry piece. I prefer full-size pistols because of the grip. So it still fairly compact. So that takes me to philosophy of use, which is, for me, a carry weapon, but first and foremost a defensive weapon. Now it could serve you as a nice bedside weapon, or in my case a carry gun. But I also actually have used this pistol in IDPA, I'm sorry, uh, competitions, the shooting competitions, and it has served me uh, fairly well. I like the size and the weight of it, and that's why I use it principally as a carry weapon when I CC. But there are many different options with it because of its uh, usefulness and even customization. So I'll get to that when we talk about accessories. We're going to talk about ergonomics now and controls and the trigger and the sights and everything, and it'll probably segue a lot into accessories because it's pretty integral to this conversation. So starting off with the sights here, they're 3-dot sights. They work real well. I do prefer the Trijicon night sights on my TSW that I have, and that kind of goes towards the accessories part, that there's a lot of aftermarket options for these third generation pistols, and one of them is sights. You can get those Trijicon, and then there's a couple other companies that make night sights for these. Now they can be a pain in the ass to push off these sights after you get the screw out, and pushing them off, sometimes you got to use a specialty tool to get them off of there. I had a 5904, which is a carbon steel slide with the black matte finish on it, and I tried to adjust its rear sight, and it was a pain in the butt, but I guess it can be done. And as far as adjustments on these are non-adjustable. They're just if you can, they're just drift adjustable right to left, so non-adjustable sights. But they work real well, and I shoot competition with this gun, and I can see them just fine. So moving on to controls. This is your magazine release button. I do not remember if it is interchangeable to either side, so you might need to look into that. But the rest of the pistol is fairly ambidextrous. These are the safeties levers. They're ambidextrous, and then that right there is your slide release lever after it locks back. So when the hammer is cocked, I'll go ahead and show you that the pistol is empty and there's no ammo on the table. When the hammer is cocked, these safety levers drop the hammer, and what they do is they actually move a block over the top of the firing pin to keep it from striking it, which I really like because it's it's just a mechanical block that blocks the firing pin and will not let the hammer drop on it. So I really like that feature. And then when they are in the down position, they are on safe, and when you flip them back up, which is generally how I carry it, then it's double action. So these have a magazine safety as well, so they will not, the trigger is disconnected when the magazine is out. You have to insert a magazine to be able to pull the trigger. So that'll take us to talking about the trigger. It's fairly narrow, but not too narrow. I actually I like it quite well, the size that it is. So as I showed you, there's no ammo on the table and the gun is safe. It's unloaded. I'll go ahead and show you the double action trigger pull. Okay, and I'll go ahead and show you reset. So it's right there. So it's not very far at all, and it's not very heavy. These I love the double action triggers on Smith & Wesson pistols, and I've just gotten used to them, and I really like them quite a bit. Some people who aren't used to double action may have to get used to that, but it's a very clean, crisp trigger to me. So I'll go ahead and show you single action. So I mean it's real nice, real nice. So that'll kind of take us to ergonomics. It has these stipple pattern on the sides of the stocks here and on the back strap, and then it also has serrations on the front strap into the aluminum, and then also this checkering pattern. Now I do prefer the checkering pattern that's on the TSWs. It's much more coarse, but these just vertical lines are still quite usable, and there are even different magazine capacities that are available. I believe Metger has 17 round mags, I believe, so there's quite a bit of aftermarket support for these third generation guns. So I had already talked a little bit about accessories, but other accessories that are out there are magazine carriers for the mags. There's tons of different holster options. I use pancake holsters, outside the waistband holsters, inside the waistband holsters. Used to have a real nice Bianchi Black Widow for it that was just sweet. So I actually, when I sold my 5904, it went with it as part of the deal. But there are plenty of holster options out there, plenty of aftermarket support. They still have parts from Smith & Wesson. I actually called up Smith & Wesson and got a replacement return spring and a firing pin spring, because I like to replace them at the same time if I do replace this one. Plenty of parts support for them, and that goes into value and longevity of the gun and reliability. I have never had a malfunction with this pistol. I've fired hundreds and hundreds of rounds through it in training, in competition, in just plinking and having fun and shooting these videos and things like that, and it has never failed me. They had a great track record while serving with law enforcement all over the country back when they were still pretty popular in service, and they are a pretty good value if you can find them. I can't remember how much I paid for this pistol, but I'm thinking it was like less than $300. They have since then dried up. I think I got this one, Lord, it's been 5+ years ago. But they are very reliable and have a great track record. So I want to talk about accuracy now. This was the first target that I shot at the range, out at the family farm, I should say. And I believe it was the first video I shot as well. So that's a pretty good group. This is a 6-inch circle. It's kind of off to the left a little, but still a little bit towards the center. And then I will go ahead and say that I'm not the best shot in the world. My hands are fairly shaky. So the fact that it is, doing a nice group there, I double action first shot, single action sequential shots. That's pretty good. Those are pretty nice and tight. Could be a little bit tighter, but pretty nice and tight for myself. This pistol is a lot more accurate than I can be with it. So this is kind of a vertical run for the second target, but they are real nice, right up on touching each other, and most of them for the most part inside the 6-inch circle. So this is kind of something I was playing with, trying to give you a POV behind the controls type shooting experience video. So the little bit off to the left, but that's because I was trying to aim through the viewfinder. And this round, I guess, is either there was 6 in the mag or it's for the one that was the target that was down here. But the still did, for shooting through the viewfinder, did pretty well. So these are at 25 yards, and this first one I actually shot at a range, off camera, separate range. Real nice place by where some of my wife's family lives. So this, of course, was my point of aim, and it was down here. But all 5 shots on the paper, and this is foot across, foot up and down. So that's still combat effective. That's what I tell myself. And these are still pretty well touching. The sights maybe off just a little at 25 yards. Instead of adjusting them, I probably just compensate for that. But still fairly, the pistol is obviously more accurate than I can be with it. I mean, it just is. So this is a little bit better shot, 25 yards. Yeah, at 25 yards, 5 shots, 2 in the circle, and then a couple others strewn about. But it is an accurate pistol. So I'm not going to be doing a field strip on this video, because this pistol on this video, because I did a video recently of how to disassemble and how I clean this pistol and how I lubricate it and how to reassemble. So check that video out. I'll annotate it in the description of this video. So that was my video review of the Smith & Wesson Model 5903 9mm semi-automatic pistol. Thanks for watching.